As the old adage dictates, we are the products of the decisions we make. Companies live and die by the decisions made by management. People's lives are forever affected by the choices made by the powers that be. Here in Chapter 9, we'll be discussing managerial decision making and how it affects the organization as a whole. Try and find and explain the best decision processes and the like. Managerial decision making. Managers are often referred to as decision makers. Every organization grows, prospers, or fails as a result of decisions made by its managers. Decisions made face ever-changing factors, unclear information, and conflicting points of view. Good decision making is a salient part of good management as it exhibits how organization solves its problems, allocate resources, and accomplish its goals. A case in point that was cited here was when Toyota USA was faced with recalls for the cars it has produced. 4 months earlier, managers already knew that these defects were existing. The question was, were they to accept the penalty, which was construed as an admission of wrongdoing, or fight it off, which may lead to more bad publicity? Another cited case here is for Apple Incorporated. In the mid-1990s, the company was virtually in the doldrums, and it was able to rebound from the brink of heavy financial losses due to the innovative and game-changing plans and decisions rendered by its CEO, the late Steve Jobs. Types of decisions and problems. A decision is a choice made from available alternatives. A sample that can be cited is when an HR manager selects among Colin, Tasha, or Carlos for the position of operations manager is a decision. Decision making is the process of identifying problems and opportunities and then resolving them. Two categories of management decisions. Number one, program decisions. This involves situations that have occurred enough to enable decision rules to be developed and applied in the future. These decisions are made in response to recurring organizational problems. An example here is when to order kitchen ingredients when supplies drop, or mandating that the next frontliner for a Susie's Cuisine store to be hired must have 6 months working experience from a fast food chain such as McDonald's or Jollibee. Once managers formulate decisions, rules, subordinates, and others can make decisions, thus freeing managers from other tasks. Number two, non-program decisions are made in response to situations that are unique, poorly defined, and largely unstructured and have important consequences on the organization. The previously cited case was that of Toyota when it recalled its cars on the local setting, closing a call center in Clark due to monsoon rains. However, the company may face huge monetary penalties imposed by its client for the sudden closure. Facing certainty and uncertainty. Primary difference between program and non-program decisions relate to the degree of certainty or uncertainty that managers face when making a decision. In reality, some things are unknowable, thus some decisions will fail to solve the problem or attain the desired outcome. Managers try to obtain information on decision alternatives that will reduce decision uncertainty. Decision situations are organized on a scale according to availability of information and possibility of failure. Scale includes certainty, risk, uncertainty, and ambiguity. Certainty depicts that all information the decision maker needs is fully available. Managers have information on operating conditions, resource costs or constraints, each course of action, and possible outcome. Cited example is what type of equipment can produce the best results, which equipment to purchase when the yield is quantified or mathematically calculated. Risk entails that the decision has clear-cut goals and information is available, but the future outcomes associated with each alternative are subject to chance. Example, when opening a sushi store outlet, we calculate foot traffic, establishments in the area, local competitions, demographic, etc. This has been a time-tested formula which Jollibee, McDonald's, even 7-Eleven have used when opening up stores in the area. Uncertainty means that managers know which goals they wish to achieve, but information about alternatives and future events is incomplete. Cited cases are in production. One cannot forecast increases in production costs and bank lending interest rates. Ambiguity and conflict. The most difficult decision situation, it states that the goals to be achieved or the problem to be solved is unclear, alternatives are difficult to define, and information and outcome is unavailable. We now go to decision-making models. This will aid our managers on how to arrive to sound and well-rounded decisions on the companies that they are associated with. We start with the classical model. Based on rational economic assumptions and managers' beliefs about what ideal decision-making should be, the four assumptions that underlie this model include: decision maker operates to accomplish goals that are known and agreed on, problems are precisely formulated and defined, decision maker strives for conditions of certainty, gathering information, all alternatives and potential results of each are calculated. Number 3, criteria for evaluating alternatives are known, selects the alternatives that will maximize the economic return to the organization. And number 4, decision maker is rational, uses logic to assign values, order preference, evaluate alternatives, and make the decision that will maximize the attainment of organizational goals. The classical model is considered normative. It defines how a decision maker should make decisions. It does not describe how managers actually make a decision, as it provides guidelines on how to reach an ideal outcome for the organization. Administrative model. It is considered to be descriptive. It describes how managers actually make decisions in complex situations rather than dictating how they should make decisions according to a theoretical ideal. Two concepts. Letter A, bounded rationality, means people have limits or boundaries on how rational they can be. Organizations are complex. Managers can only process a limited amount of information with which to make decisions. And letter B, satisficing. Decision makers choose the first single solution alternative that satisfies minimal decision criteria. Here, managers opt for the first solution that appears to solve the problem. Next model is the administrative model. Intuition is included as it highlights a quick apprehension of a decision based on past experience, but without a conscious thought. It is not based on arbitrary or irrational decisions, but anchored on years of practice and hands-on experience. This enables managers to quickly identify solutions without going through long and arduous computations. Numerous studies have found that effective managers use a combination of rational analysis and intuition in making complex decisions under time pressure. Word of caution though, managers should use intuition under the right circumstances and in the right time. One is often not better than the other. Managers need a balanced approach by considering both rationality and intuition as important components of effective decision making. Next model is the political model. It is bargaining and discussion among coalition members. Coalition building gives several managers an opportunity to contribute to decision making, enhancing their commitment to the alternative that is ultimately adopted closely resembles the real environment in which managers and decision makers operate. It has four basic assumptions. Number one, organizations are groups with diverse interests, goals, and values. Managers disagree about problem priorities and may not understand or share the goals and interests of other managers. Number two, information is ambiguous and incomplete. Attempts to be rational is limited by the complexity of many problems as well as personal organizational constraints. Number three, managers do not have the time, resources, mental capacity to identify all dimensions of the problem and process all relevant information. Managers exchange viewpoint to gather information and reduce ambiguity. Managers engage in push and pull debate to decide goals and discuss alternatives. These are the result of bargaining and discussion among coalition members.
Whether a decision is programmed or non-programmed, and regardless of manager's choice of the classical administrative or political model of decision-making, 6 steps typically are associated with effective decision process. These are recognition of decision requirement, diagnosis and analysis of causes, development of alternatives, selection of desired alternative, implementation of chosen alternative, and evaluation and feedback. Step number 1. Recognition of decision requirement. Managers confront a decision requirement in the form of either a problem or an opportunity. An example of this problem: the failure of U.S. intelligence leaders to recognize the imminent threat of Al-Qaeda prior to the September 11, 2011 terrorist attacks has been attributed to the lack of systems and close communication between CIA and FBI. Another example of a problem was when PLDT's 2011 core net income dropped 7% versus the previous year from 42 billion pesos to 39 billion pesos, attributable to lower service revenues and higher operating expenses. An example of opportunity was when PLDT recently went on a buying spree, acquiring majority shares in Meralco and Digital Sun. According to PLDT Group Chair MVP, these acquisitions are aligned with PLDT's long-term strategy of convergence and arrest growing competition in the market. Awareness of a problem or opportunity is the first step in the decision sequence and requires surveillance of the internal and external environment for issues that merit executive attention. Recognizing decision requirements is difficult because it often means integrating information in novel ways. The second step is the diagnosis and analysis of causes. Diagnosis is a step in which managers analyze the underlying causal factors associated with the decision situation. Managers make a big mistake if they jump right into generating alternatives without first exploring the cause of the problem more deeply. Studies recommend that a series of questions Managers may base decisions on what has worked in the past and fail to explore new options and dig for new information and technologies. Step number 6 is evaluation and feedback. Feedback is important because decision-making is a continuous, never-ending process. Not all managers make decisions in the same way. These differences can be explained by the concept of personal decision styles. Personal decision style refers to differences between people with respect to how they perceive problems and make decisions. Research has identified 4 major decision styles. The directive style is used by people who prefer simple, clear-cut solutions to problems. With an analytical style, managers like to consider complex solutions based on as much data as they can gather. People who tend toward a conceptual style also like to consider a broad amount of information. The behavioral style is characterized by having a deep concern for others as individuals. Most managers have a dominant decision style. The most effective managers are able to shift among styles as needed to meet the situation. Managers are faced with a relentless demand for decisions, from solving minor problems to implementing major strategic changes. Even the best manager will make mistakes, but managers can manage these mistakes by acquainting themselves with the following 6 biases. First impressions last. When considering decisions, the mind often gives disproportionate weight to the first information it receives. Many managers fall into the trap of making choices that justify their past decisions even if those decisions no longer seem valid. People frequently look for information that supports their existing instinct or point of view and avoid information that contradicts it. Managers may base decisions on what has worked in the past and fail to explore new options and dig for new information and technologies. There is a saying that the lowest point of a man is when he is happy or angry. This is the point where he is most vulnerable to committing blunders. For example, doctors cannot let their emotions get into them in dealing with their patients, regardless if they like or dislike the patients. They should prescribe the correct procedure or medicine. Most people overestimate their ability to predict uncertain outcomes. Innovative group decision-making. These turbulent times, managers are tasked to make high-quality decisions on a frequent basis. It is, however, encouraged for the people throughout the organization to be involved in the decision-making and have the information, skills, and freedom they need to respond immediately to problems and questions. Start with brainstorming. One of the best-known techniques for rapidly generating creative alternatives is brainstorming. Brainstorming uses a face-to-face group to spontaneously suggest a broad range of alternatives for decision-making. The keys to effective brainstorming are that people can build on one another's ideas. All ideas are acceptable no matter how crazy they seem, and criticism and evaluation are not allowed. The goal is to generate as many ideas as possible. One form of brainstorming that is widely used these recent times is electronic brainstorming, also called brainwriting. Recent studies show that electronic brainstorming generates about 40% more ideas than individual brainstorming alone and 25 to 200% more than groups. Engaging in rigorous debate. An important key to better decision-making under conditions of uncertainty is to encourage a rigorous debate of the issue at hand. Good managers recognize that constructive conflict based on different points of view can focus a problem, clarify ideas, and stimulate creative thinking. It can also create a broader understanding of issues and alternatives and improve broader decision quality. There are several ways to stimulate rigorous debate. One way is by ensuring diversity in terms of age and gender, functional area of expertise, hierarchical level, and experience with the business. Some groups assign a devil's advocate who has the role of challenging the assumptions and assertions made by the group. Another approach is to have group members develop as many alternatives as they can as quickly as they can. Still another approach is a technique called point-counterpoint, a technique in which two subgroups assign competing points of view. The two groups then develop and exchange proposals and discuss the various options until they arrive at a common set of understandings. Avoiding group thinking. Groupthink refers to the tendency of people in groups to support contrary opinions. The desire for harmony outweighs concerns over decision quality. Good managers must know how to pull the plug when business scenarios are getting ugly to uglier. Research has found that managers and organizations often continue to invest time and money in a solution despite strong evidence that it is not appropriate. This tendency is called escalating commitment. Act with speed. Today's accelerated pace of business means that some decisions have to be made incredibly fast. Ursula Burns made the biggest acquisition in Xerox history by buying affiliated computer services for $6.4 billion just weeks after she took over as the CEO of the giant company. Don't ignore a crisis. This is where speed is most crucial. Managers or task force teams need to quickly assess the situation and step forward with a response. Consider the example. Two prankster employees at Domino's Pizza franchise posted a YouTube video of the two fouling a pizza on the way to delivery, in what has been referred to as one of the quickest responses ever to a corporate crisis. Domino's managers tracked down and fired employees, filed charges against them, and issued an online apology within the